period leave, period leaves,
Leave due to periods.
Period leave.
Period leave.
Period leave. A leave given to women during menstruation. A concept discussed by many and followed by some. Recently, food ordering app Zomato announced a period leave for all of their women employees. The 10 days of period leave in a year was also extended to their transgender employees. Zomato on 8th of August tweeted its announcement about the same. Zomato's founder and CEO Deepinder Goyal in a blog post said that the company took the step to foster a culture of trust, truth and acceptance, or in easy language, to break the taboo around the topic of menstruation. What followed next was the debate and discussion over the news on social media. People were surprised that a mainstream company took such a step. A lot of debate was seen on social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter. Many welcomed it, calling it progressive, saying that it might help women come out and say that they are on their periods.
If anything I can call progressive in recent times, then that will be this move initiated by Zomato to offer its women employees period leave. I think that this initiative will not only be beneficial for the organization but also take our country to newer horizons.
As a woman, as a girl, I really feel that getting a period leave is a must.
So I think the step taken by Zomato is pretty worth and pretty ideal and pretty novel, and I think other firms must take an example of it and work towards a more gender inclusive collaboration at the workplace.
Many others rejected the idea, calling it a question on equality's face. They said at a time when women have reached moon, a period leave will do nothing but promote discrimination. Among the women who despised the idea of period leave was renowned journalist Barkha Dutt. She tweeted and said, "This is exactly what ghettoizes women and strengthens biological determinism. We cannot join the infantry, report war, fly fighter jets, go into space, want no exceptionalism, and want a period leave." Others said,
There's a lot of debate on the subject of period leave, which was announced by a company recently. And while there are a lot who are actually clapping for this one, there are a few who come from my school of thought as well. You have women in the armed forces in India on the border holding one of the most competitive guns and weaponry. These women are not complaining about period pain, and they're not going to avail of a period leave either. That means these are ideas that are good to have but need not be applicable to all. At the same time, may not appeal to all, and it should be left as a voluntary acceptance rather than a blanket application.
There are two sides to period leaves. One side says that of course there should be given period leaves because they go through all sorts of problems and pains which men don't, so they should be given special leaves. But then the other side, which talks about women equality, that says that what about equality then? Why they are being given special leaves?
Women have for the longest time been seeking equality, and equality especially at the workplace, because it is connected to financial freedom. In the last 50 years, you've seen enormous strides by women all over the world. If I were to say that 50 years ago, women would not get a bank loan, women would not get a credit card, it was hard to get a driver's license, or it was even more difficult to start businesses in America, it would be hard for people to believe, but that is the truth. It was hard for women, even in America, a country that we believe stood for radical freedom way ahead of its time. So when I'm seeing subjects like this crop up, I'm forced to believe that it's more of a claptrap that aims to create noise in the market than have really thought through well.
whether we admit it or we deny, the topic of menstruation is still a taboo in India. According to a study, over 70% of girls in India are unaware of periods until they get it themselves. The main reason behind it is that parents themselves are either ashamed of talking about the anatomy of a woman's body or they are simply unaware of its importance. Lack of awareness is one of the reasons why most of the women in India still don't have an access to the sanitary pads. According to National Family Health Survey of the year 2015 to 2016, there are around 33 crore 60 lakh women in India who menstruate every month. But only around 12 crore 10 lakh women use sanitary napkins produced locally or commercially. It means that only 36% of the women in India have access to sanitary pads. What do others use? A data by the US National Library of Medicine National Institutes of Health suggests that over 77% of menstruating girls and women in India use an old cloth, which is reused again and again. Out of these, around 88% of women sometimes use ashes, newspapers, dried leaves, and husk sand in place of a sanitary napkin. While it is already alarming, what raises concerns is the fact that people have associated an array of myths around menstruation. Some of these myths include not being allowed to enter puja rooms, not being allowed to touch the holy books, sacred figures, or something as unimportant as a pickle jar. Many are not allowed to even cook food or enter the kitchen. When all this is prevalent, a question pops up every now and then: whether period leave is a good idea or not.
It is high time that we busted out all sorts of wrong notions, myths, and taboos that are associated with menstruation in the country. I mean, what are we ashamed of? Every single woman, adult and adolescent, bleed irrespective of which walk of life they come from. The least any organization can do is to acknowledge and give due respect to this completely natural phenomena that happens to every single woman.
I think, of course, because they go through that pain and all sorts of troubles, they should be given special leaves because that will do them good.
Call it a period leave, you have to understand that the data gets recorded in an HRIS system and there'll be people who are privy to this. You don't want to create complications tomorrow where you have people in your team who know about your period leaves talking about your premenstrual syndrome just because you were upset or angry at a meeting. You don't want anyone to have data about your health condition. A lot of young women are very vociferous and aggressive without having really understood the implications of having something like a period leave, where a company uses this as a reason to collect data on your menstrual dates. Because if they did, that's medical record in the hands of somebody who doesn't need your medical records. Number one, that's violation. That's a gross violation. In many countries, this would be a grave offense because after you cross the age of 35, whether that is a Ayurvedic doctor, a homeopath, or an allopath, one of the first things that they ask you is about your menstrual condition, your menstrual days, and the days as well as the tenure of these days and the kind of symptoms that you experience during this time can be indicative of your overall health. It can be used as assessment. Artificial intelligence can be attached to HRISs, and they are today. You don't know how this data can get used, and it's not anybody's business to extract this kind of information from any woman. The usage of the term period leave, it's just got to be an extension of your sick leaves, and no reason to state why you are taking those days, just that the company has records of why you have those additional days over and above other people. In my view, period leave kind of is a little counterproductive, especially because not every woman wants it or expects it or desires it. There are women like me, a lot of women like me, who think we can stand shoulder to shoulder with men and do a lot of jobs alike. Of course, there are physically strenuous jobs that we may not be eligible to handle.
Period leave is relatively a new concept in India. However, it is not a novel step. Culture Machine, a Mumbai-based digital media platform, in 2017 became the first company to offer period leaves to its women employees. the company implemented a policy to give a choice to their female employees for taking a day off on the first day of periods. Another company by the name of Guzoop, a Gurugram-based digital marketing agency, also took some inspiration and allowed women to take a paid leave on their first day of periods. After Zomato introduced period leave, Spinny, a full-stack online platform for buying and selling of used cars in September 2020, announced a menstrual leave for their female employees. With this, it became the first ever company in auto industry of India to provide the leave. At least, the company claimed so. Now, the concept might seem new in India. Many countries in the world do provide period leaves to women. Some of them are Japan. It is one of the very first countries to provide period leaves to women. To much of everyone's surprise, it started giving period leaves as early as in 1947. Yes, when India had just obtained its independence and had a long way to go, Japan had this policy. Taiwan. Another country to announce menstruation leaves for women was Taiwan, which introduced it in 2013. It allows women to have 3 days of period leaves in a year in addition to sick leaves. China. While the country does not have it in all of its regions, there are some provinces that allow women to have period leaves. Indonesia. Indonesia allows women to take 24 period leaves in a year, which is the maximum number of leaves given by any Asian country to all the women in the country for menstruating. South Korea. South Korea allowed women to take period leaves in 2001. Italy. It is the first European country to provide women with 3 days of period leaves in a month, but only if they are suffering from dysmenorrhea, which results in extremely painful periods. Did you know that even in India, the Bihar government has been allowing women in government sector to take 2 days of period leaves per month since 1992? In fact, Ninong Ering, a former Lok Sabha member for Congress from Arunachal Pradesh, in 2017 introduced a private member's bill, the Menstruation Benefit Bill in Lok Sabha. The bill had demanded 2 days of mandatory menstrual leave for every woman every month. It also demanded better facilities to take rest at workplace during menstruation. The bill was never taken ahead, and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare had said that the government had no plans to introduce such a legislation. The ministry rather pushed for more aggressive awareness programs. Objections were raised saying that the bill would defeat the purpose of equality at workplaces at a time when women have fought for not treating menstruation as sickness. On the other hand, there are certain facts that need to be kept in mind. Number 1. An average woman bleeds for 40 to 45 years in her lifetime. Number 2. 90% of women face some sort of discomfort and pain during periods. Number 3. Abdominal cramps causing severe pain often extend to pain in back and thighs. Number 4. Women suffering from conditions like PCOD, PCOS and dysmenorrhea experience very painful periods. Amid this, is it a good initiative?
Menstruation is a biological phenomena, and yes, women go through a lot of pain and cramps, and which is inevitable. And my first question is, how long would it take women to realize that yes, it's a type of pain and it's very real, very evident? And how long would it take for them to demand their rights? I mean, whenever we'll be applying for a leave due to periods, it would be considered as sick leave. We are not sick. We are not going through any fever or headache. It's a biological thing and it happens every single month. I mean, 60 days, almost a year.
There are umpteen ladies, including me, who have these painful cramps while in the days of their periods. So they have cramps. There are women who have some hormonal imbalances, some hormonal changes. Then there are people, there are females who have PCOD, PCOS issues, and there are a lot of women who have so much of pain in their days of periods that they cannot just they cannot work, they cannot concentrate on work. And hormonal imbalance is one of the biggest reasons why mood swings happen to the women. So I feel that yes, it is a must. It should be, it should be accepted in a very, very warm way.
Many critical elements seem to be missing in the communication of something like a period leave. Firstly, do all women want it? Well, women like me don't. I don't believe that this is contributing to a real-time progress, because we're at an age and time where medicine addresses a great deal of pain and any type of pain. 50 years ago, when we didn't have pain medicines, it was okay to consider special leeways and considerations, but Buralgan went out and Meftal took over, whatever that might be. Smaller, manageable pain is handled by medication, and women don't really need to take a leave for managing life, whether that's domestic responsibility or workplace responsibilities. So in the age of medicine, who really requires consideration is a woman who suffers from a condition called dysmenorrhea. Dysmenorrhea is a very grave period complication which results in the endometrial lining giving out way more blood than the woman's body can handle, resulting in anemia, fatigue, and fainting spells. This type of a lady, a woman with a real medical condition attached to her menstrual cycle, would of course get a medical certificate that says that she suffers from dysmenorrhea. And if organizations in this country or anywhere else really want to consider giving that kind of leeway to a woman who has a medical condition, that's absolutely fair and fine. However, nomenclature cannot be a period leave, and it's got to ideally be attached to sick leave extensions. So a woman with this condition submits her medical status to the company and gets her additional 10 days or 20 days or whatever the company thinks they want to award a woman with this kind of a medical history.
The question of whether period leaves should be made mandatory leaves us with many other questions. What about women who experience painful periods? What about women who leave their jobs due to this factor? What about women who are discriminated against when they apply for sick leaves almost every month, because openly asking leaves for periods is still a distant dream? What about the discrimination that women might have to go through if they take period leaves? What about equality at work and rights of men? And most importantly, what about women working in unorganized sectors, considering that 65% of India's population resides in rural areas and over 93% of India's workforce is employed in unorganized sector?